A $34 trillion ticking time bomb. Of course, we're talking about the U.S. national debt, and as we're going to cover here in today's episode, it's actually much more than just a $34 trillion ticking time bomb. It's over 100 trillion of unfunded liabilities that get added to that as well. So we need to add it all up. We need to take a good, hard look at this situation. And although it might be a bitter pill to swallow, we might not be able to afford this fund, that program, this war, that war. And we might have to actually rein our spending back in. What a concept. And so in today's episode, we're going to cover the situation here with the U.S. national debt just hitting $34 trillion. And we need to talk about this, folks. You cannot just keep kicking this can down the road forever. And when you understand how big of a problem this is, how systemically everything is tied in together with our financial system, debt, currency, and liquidity crisis, then you start to understand how big the ramifications of this ticking time bomb actually are. Once it does go off, this is going to be nuclear. Now, I wanted to share this update here at a time when most folks forget that we're just continuing to push back this debt ceiling, right? We basically took the debt ceiling limit away until January of 2025. That's what they voted in. But then I guess somehow we keep on running out of money. And so we had, we're tight on some portion of the budget. You can't even keep track anymore, right? It's just like trying to keep track of all the banking liquidity backstops that have been set up. You can't even keep track. All these different programs for, BTFP, you got the reverse repo market, they got this, they got that. Janet No-Tell Yellen tells you if you're systemically important, don't worry about it, we got you covered. If you're a little bank in Kentucky, kick rocks. That's our situation at hand here, and trying to keep track of this is a task because everything that we're getting from them is, of course, a lie. Now, in our community, what we've done is we've positioned ourselves accordingly. We positioned ourselves in the assets that actually do reset the system. Much different than, I'm picking a stock because, they got good earnings. They're going to be able to have a good year this year. They got, a good idea, good concept, a good business model. This is a matter of, assets like silver, gold, XRP, some of our digital currency plays could actually be part of resetting the system. And this is why we just saw gold go to an all-time high last year in US dollars, but it had been at all-time high in many other currencies already. This resets are already underway, folks. We have to understand that. Now, how long can they keep this facade going? We're going to find out. But the real ones, most of you that are tapped into this channel have already understood this situation and you've invested accordingly. And I'm telling you that our time is coming. I mean, gold going to all-time high is a signal. Now, do folks talk about gold going to 5,000, 10,000? And are they anxious to see that? Do they want to see that? Do they have a feeling that I need gold to go to 5,000 because, I invested my retirement account or I invested a chunk of my savings? For me, I've put it all into silver in regards to precious metals. I would love to see it go to $50 or $100. But just like Rick Rule said, we don't invest in gold because we think it's going to go to 3,000. We invest in gold because we're worried it's going to go to $6,000 or $8,000 or $10,000. We invest in silver because we're worried that it's going to go to 3 digits and beyond. Now, I'm not here to give you a price prediction. I'm just here to say, you guys remain tapped in here. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. And if you like our updates, make sure that you like all the videos, drop a comment on down below, share the love. And you already know the deal. I don't have a sponsor. I don't have any deal. I have affiliates that'll help you get cryptocurrencies, that'll help you secure it with wallets. We can get you precious metals. We can roll over 401k retirement account to precious metals. Or if you want to get tapped in with my investment community, where we talk about all these ideas on an ongoing basis in the private channel, that's all at my website, ZachRector.com. I keep my programs very, very simple. But without further ado, let's get right on into this debt ticking time bomb. Now is eclipsed 34 trillion. And we have a long ways to go here, and we have a much bigger problem. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But take a look at this one, folks. From the Kobesi letter, total U.S. debt hits 34 trillion for the first time in history, putting U.S. debt up 100% since 2014. Since the debt ceiling crisis ended in June of 2023, total U.S. debt is up nearly 3 trillion. So we're up 3 trillion just since June of 2023, when this debt ceiling crisis was supposed to be over, right? This is when they voted to push the can, kick the can all the way to January 1st, 2025. This debt balance is more than the value of the economies of China, Germany, Japan, India, and the UK combined. The US is now spending $2 billion per day on interest expense alone. Debt per capita is at a record high of $101,000. What's the long-term plan here? So me and you, we each got $101,000 debt hanging over our heads, I guess, as a US citizen. Continuing from Zero Hedge, U.S. interest expense $1.1 trillion as of today. That's $250 billion more than the defense budget, $250 billion more than the spending on Medicare, another unfunded liability, $200 billion more than the spending on health, and will surpass the $1.35 trillion spending on Social Security this year, becoming the single biggest outlay. And this is the problem: is this is expenses, this is liabilities going out every single month. Okay. And this is adding up. And as we're tracking here, it's adding up faster than we can bring it in, even though the IRS is collecting a record amount of taxes. Believe it or not, we're collecting a record amount of taxes, but we're still adding to the deficit at a pace that we've never seen before. It's an unprecedented adding to the deficit that we're watching in real time. Now, as Peter Schiff says, to put it into perspective, it took less than 3 months and 2 weeks to add the last trillion to the national debt. So we're talking a few months to add the last trillion to this national debt, from 33 trillion to 34. I think the U.S. will add the next trillion in less than 3 months. At that pace, the national debt will be growing at over 1 trillion per quarter. Just imagine if there's a recession. And that is the pace that we're on. We've well surpassed our defense budget. We've well surpassed all of these unfunded liabilities. And this is the unfunded liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, all of this is owed to U.S. citizens, right? Many, Americans have paid into this, right? Their whole life. It is owed to them. I would love to have, young folks like myself have the option to opt out and just say, hey, I'm not going to feed the Ponzi, and I'm not going to take from the Ponzi. Or maybe it's not a Ponzi. Good luck. God bless. You guys can figure out if it's a Ponzi or not. I'd like to pass. Please, I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not going to ask for anything, and this is how I feel across the board. Please just get out of my way. I don't need anything from you. All I ask is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness here in the United States of America. God bless it. Just get the hell out of my way, please. And okay, we got reasonable taxes. Well, we're a long way from reasonable taxes to, fund, our roads, our schools, and what have you. Our military that, when's the last time that we voted on any war that we've been spending trillions on? And so that for the average American, you can understand why so many of us have, been calling this out, and we've been incredibly frustrated because we didn't vote for this. I didn't sign up for this. I signed the loan on other things, I didn't sign the loan on this. I didn't sign any documentations. I didn't sign the contract on this. But just waking up and being American today, you got $100,000 in debt on your head, and that's the situation at hand here. Now, what's interesting though is the market's been pumping. The party's been a good time, but now you're starting to see them struggle. They're starting to cope with, wait, hold up, we might have a situation on hand here, and I'm talking about this article right here from Market Watch. Check it out. Top Wall Street bull warns of a pause in stock rally, but sees S&P 500 grinding higher in 2024. So, it reminds me of the Fed where, inflation was transitory. We didn't have a recession. That's politically incorrect. Whatever you feel like is fine with me. As long as you feel good, I feel good. Cha, cha, cha. Let's have a good time. And let's make sure that we cheerlead Bidenomics because it's all working well and the stock market's pumping and we're all having a good time. And meanwhile, we literally cannot keep, we cannot afford the empire that we currently have. The expansive military presence throughout the world, funding programs here, funding programs there. And what do they want to do? Speaking of Bidenomics, how is that program going to work out? Now we're going to forgive student loan debt. And they would forgive it all if they could, because it'd buy them a bunch of votes, But they're going as fast as they can. They're getting as far as they can with it. But the Supreme Court's been striking them down in some aspects of it. But the point being, That's one of our largest assets. The United States government funded all of the student loans, over $1 trillion of it, right? And that's actually an asset on our balance sheet. We're supposed to be getting paid from these kids. But as we've seen here lately, now we have a protest going on. So only, I think about 40% of folks actually made payments that became due here at the end of 2023. And I understand frustration. I understand, not wanting to pay when we've got this situation that's completely out of hand. But the problem is, once again, when you just look at a strict balance sheet perspective of the United States government, we are screwed. You know what I'm saying? Whether they forgive the debt or not, even if they collect all that student loan debt, it's not enough to keep up with this. And what does this lead to? It leads to the destruction of the currency. And what does that lead to once the party's over, once we reset the system and once we have a revaluation? Well, it's not $25 per ounce silver. It's not a 60-cent XRP. I don't even think that it's a $45,000 Bitcoin, even though, Bitcoin doesn't turn me on anymore. I don't think that it equates to a $45,000 Bitcoin. I think it goes much higher. I think gold, it equates to a much higher price for gold as well. And the breakouts have already started. The bull run is already underway. Watch out for hiccups. Watch out for the black swan scenarios. Take advantage of those opportunities to buy the dip if you so please. I'm not here to give you financial advice. I'm just telling you how I'm preparing for what's coming our way, which I think is a bumpy ride through 2024. But in the end, they turn it back on. Money printer's going to go burr. Powell's going to fill back up the punch bowl, and that's going to fill back up our bags. Be ready to take profit and be ready to reallocate to other asset classes, and the game continues going. Whether you're a new young buck like myself who's just building wealth, or you're trying to protect something, we got to stay tapped in. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure that you're sharing out our content wide. Every single day we're bringing it, financial markets, current events, and how we're getting our community on the right side of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. It's very simple. Please make sure that you like this video, drop a comment down below, head on over to my website, ZachRector.com, for all of our community resources. I will see you in the next one. God bless you all.